Competition makes you easily controlled. How so, you might ask? Well, it is quite known that humans like to prove to each other that they are better in ways that make them feel sophisticated. And you might think I'm a little insecure and bitchy about this, but it's my personal conviction that that people like to use academic and academic and athletic standards to heighten themselves and inflate their ego against others, often at the expense of others as well. And the morality to which that extends to is oftentimes ignored, because what's the most important thing is that I'm the best, that I'm superior to everyone else because I have scored, I don't know, 98 out of 100 on a math test. And now that I think that me knowing everything, that the idea of me knowing everything is perfectly valid. This idea is pretty destructive in my opinion. It can lead you to forget about what else you can learn except for, I don't know, math, yeah, because it turns the world of mathematics as an only world, as an only means of expressing yourself, which is limiting and which can eventually be used against you in a way that a third party might, well, meddle their fingers in the matter, in the mathematics, and subtly manipulate you by encouraging you to, well, prove to everyone else that you're yet again better than your classmates. This has been documented by um, How to Win Friends and Influence People by an American author. I can't remember his name now. Dale Carnegie, yeah. So he has explicitly stated that if you want to make your people productive, make them compete against each other, make them think that by performing better than their competitors, that they are being more moral, that they are fulfilling their ethical nature, as Kierkegaard suggests, the Danish philosopher. And mm, yeah, the fact that most people are too ignorant to even consider manipulation techniques that can come with competitions we all know, like math, Olympiad, and stuff, that they're too ignorant to even think about the possible manipulative schemes by the government or by some individuals that consists of continuously making people compete on a thing that might not even be useful in their lives in the future. Now, I have, as a person who is deeply interested in geography, I personally got into like the global geography Olympiad last year. And all I can say is that people are very, very aware of how they are perceived. Because, yeah, I understand it has to do with the globalist part of it. But the main thing that I have noticed is that people need to be validated in one way or another. They need that feeling of yes, I'm doing what's good. I'm doing what it takes to be considered as a person who is living their true social potential. Not just like potential of creating meaning, because society doesn't necessarily reward meaning, but the social potential of being highly viewed in the social hierarchy, which in itself is not necessarily based on living an authentic life. I thought to myself, was this a mistake that I have went to these international events and competitions and stuff? Is this actually detrimental to my independence and authenticity? Is it actually teaching me to make myself vulnerable to certain people controlling me in a way or another that might not have the best intentions in my favor? Because, I am too skeptical of people suddenly, I don't know, acting like in the best interests of students. Yeah, I understand the perspective. Yes, they're the future of our country. But I don't think that the majority of businessmen and wealthy individuals that pose high ranks in society would willingly just invest in such sector if there is not like a personal interest attached to it, because people are driven entirely by their self-interests. Even love, even love can be driven by self-interest, because it is in my interest to feel good about like to feel good while I present to you the good feeling of love. Because if love never felt good, I would never show love towards you, even if love was even if love was good or even beneficial objectively to you. The thing is that people who just claim that, hey, I do not care about the selfish goals and that materialistic stuff and emotional needs and stuff like that, they are not aware of the fact that the the feel good emotion is also a self-interest factor. And that feel good emotion dictates how people think, how people behave, and even dictates what people do. People can start competing, like, not necessarily to prove themselves, but to love themselves, to love who they could be. And I think that it's the main driver behind people's actions. And if governments present that feel good emotion as something that is as like in a way that is trendy and that is socially acceptable, then they will have significant power in our choices and behavior. And I'm kind of afraid to even think about it. Even as a person who does not like have strict social imposed boundaries on what's normal to think about, I'm still kind of unsettled about that thought. Every single normalized action is a form of manipulation by some sort of people who know us better than we do know ourselves. And it becomes more and more obvious the more you're exposed to competitive environments. Everyone else around you just becomes, I don't know, how do you call it, electrified. Everyone else starts getting hyper engaged in a topic that will, let's be honest, be forgotten eventually. Do people care about who won the Math Olympiad in 2006 in, I don't know, in Shanghai? I highly doubt so. They might care about the competition this year, but it would be too brash to assume that the history of Olympiad winners in math would appeal to a lot of people. And sure, I might be internalizing like my goal of not being forgotten in this world in my conclusions. So there might be a cognitive bias, but still, it drives the irrational behavior, which makes people easier to control. But control in what specific ways, you might ask? Well, control how you feel for stuff, how you feel about an action, how you feel about the upcoming, I don't know, paper exam that is a part of the 3-day competition. It also might affect your behavior on other people. It might, most importantly, it might distract you from finding out who you really are. And that is the most terrifying realization that you can make, especially like at my age, when people just, I don't know, when my peers just are kind of obsessed over the things we have based our imagination upon when we were kids, like cars and beer and tallness and adulthood and everything. Now they relive those fantasies, you know, just because they are now present in the real world. They fully forget about the other equally important things in the world, such as finding out the way to fulfill your potential in a way that you're not going to be distracted. And distraction is a key way for not just governments but any individual, to be honest, to establish control over somebody. Even your family members, even your colleagues, even your teachers use those tests like in school to control how you behave, to control what to expect from society, to control your output and the level of questioning that you allow yourself to delve into. The earlier that you detach from external atmosphere, external metrics, and external emotions that come with being perceived as a high being in a social hierarchy, the more cognitive freedom you're going to have that is going to give you the life that you truly want. Not the life that society tells you to, for example, not the life that the rich men on reels propagate, because those people do not truly know you as much as you do. And because it's easier, it's easier for people to just accept others' opinions as their own instead of forming their own opinions, even when it comes to their lives. Because in the essence of life, according to their subconscious mind, System 1, Daniel Kahneman, It is just about automatically responding to whatever is present in front of them, and without oftenly activating the system too, and imposing like the cognitive laziness and cognitive and operating on the basis of cognitive ease, which is yet again another tool that can be used against people if somebody is unethical enough to do so. Well, how do you think the modern governments operate? The modern elections, the modern media, the modern stuff that you get promoted regularly. How do those things happen to stay relevant years on it? Because they compete against each other, you know. In Hungary and in America, you have only two parties, and they're in a, say, oligopoly, or in the best case, monopolistic competition, if you're going to refer it to them as economic terms. And such environment fosters competition. When a certain side is presented as the perfect solution, the other side is presented as the bad. And the same goes for the other side. And then there is a division of thought between people, division of political thought. And that exact division distracts those same people from some much more important and much more life affecting things, such as how governments operate on same ends. Eventually, in the end of the day, how there are rich lobbyists who have the power to take control over the politics themselves, and all those hidden machineries that politicians hide under a fake smile that just that is just not up to any good, to be honest. But hey, at least he's smiling, so he must be good, right? No, even though I might be only 18 years old, I still think that what people older than me are concerned with makes a lot of sense, because the innate human need to assert the dominance will never truly fade away, because we are living beings. We are, biologically speaking, we are animals. We thrive on hormonal disbalances and influences that govern our behavior. And like most of, like, majority of people are not aware of it. They just think about the ideology behind the parties, not just the, like, only about ideologies, not also about the hidden intentions behind people presenting those ideologies. Because, for example, I mean, take China and North Korea as an example. China, I mean, even though it's technically moving towards capitalism, is a communist society, and they're thriving. But say you get an election, you hold elections in North Korea, and say that they are fond of Chinese people. And I mean, not just the Chinese people, but the Chinese system. And there is a pro-democratic and pro-authoritarian party of Kim Jong-un. Yeah. And because of this bias of North Koreans, majority of North Koreans toward Chinese people, and the opposition that claims that North Korea should be moving towards the fraternity between like North Korea and South Korea. Um, and where was I? Oh yeah, I um, in such environment like the existence of competition at the same time and the threat of authoritarianism due to temporary personal convictions, the threat of that is real, and it's how dictatorships are formed. Think about Che Guevara. Think about, uh, for example, Khomeini in Iran, and think about all other kinds of politicians that just exploited populism in for their own needs. This does not only extend to academic competitions, exams, and government elections and stuff like that. It also extends to personal life. You can control yourself by competing with you. You can compete with your nature and control yourself by internalizing that belief that you should be the the winner in that competition against your own nature. Control, like competition asserted on others, is a form of manipulation and is a form that that encourages utilitarian ways of thinking and utilitarian life in general between the people that do it. And while it can have some positive effects if it's used well, most of the times people like elites are willing to, not just elites, but any person who has a slight understanding of human nature is willing to exploit that human nature to their own gain. And it's easily done, much easier than you think. If you think critically about everything, then it might not seem like so, but remember that most people are just environment takers, not environment makers. So, yeah, using competition as a battle against yourself is a pretty much perfect way to not let your potential slip out and not let yourself get affected by the socially present atmospheres and emotions that dictate how everyone else is behaving. The power of stoicism in front of people who are enraged, of people who are red in the face from the last minute on a chemistry exam or a competition, that is that can bring wonders, in my opinion. It is my conviction that such mentality will secure you independence from the irrationality of socially accepted norms and ways of thinking. So, yeah, in summary, when taking all those points together, it's pretty obvious that you're not playing like, if you operate on a system one, you're not playing by your own rules, but by the rules of those who employ system two as their primary, as their dominant source of decisions in life. That extends to areas where you develop yourself, sports as well, yeah, and areas in life, like in general, like you can also have social hierarchy competitions that especially keep people busy from discovering who they are, and that should be the biggest mission of each person who strives to be something. So yeah, that's my take. Thank you for watching, and